last week we talked about, I was so excited to see him. And when I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, Molif, how are you doing?" He said, "Get away from me, you're black." And as I say always in my stories, my goal is not to embarrass or insult anyone. My goal is just to help and educate somebody who might have been going through the same thing that I've been going through, or they are going through it currently at the time, okay? Welcome everyone to the Juneann Lewis True Life Story. I'm glad to be back. Listen, today we're going to talk about several things, and I'm going to start off by giving thanks to my sponsor, which is Vitally. And I'm sponsored by Vitally Serum. And it is spectacular. As you guys can see the difference in my skin. If you haven't, I've been using Vitally. And that's what's causing the radiance in my skin. I do have good skin, but Vitally has been doing an excellent job. So I must say thank you to my sponsor, Vitally, for sponsoring me for the Juneann Lewis True Life Story. And I want to start off this week talking about the move that we made from California to Georgia, why we made that move to Georgia. Actually, my husband got out of the military in 1993. And the reason that he got out is because Clinton was in office, President Clinton was in office, and he was offering individuals an opportunity to get out of the military because he was downsizing and take a lump sum of money. So my husband wanted to get out of the military, I guess, for a while, and he took the opportunity and we got a lump sum of money. We had to make a decision between Georgia and Florida. We liked Florida, but what happened, Georgia had the 1996 Olympics coming, and I wanted to staff. I wanted to do business there. For those of you who don't know, I actually did own a staffing agency. And so we seek this opportunity now, okay, between Florida and Georgia. Georgia is the better place because of the fact that I have the opportunity to open the staffing agency. And I want to stop there before going any further, because somebody's going to say, "Oh, really?" Yes, you can open a business without money, number one. And number two, you don't need a degree in order to open a business. I'll address that later. So we moved in my goal. And when I tell you, one of the things I have to share with you, you hear me talk all the time about mindset, and I'll tell you why I talk about mindset. It is very, very important about this mindset. I don't care what in the world you want to do. You can accomplish it once you have the mindset. So I came now we moved from California, we moved to Georgia. My goal is to open this staffing agency. But more than that, my goal and my dream is to staff for the Olympics. So, like most of you said, "Oh, really?" And yes, now mind you, I stop here. I don't have a degree. Now I have a case full of certificates because I take a lot of classes and courses. And let me establish this to you. Robert Kiyosaki said there's 4 quadrants of people in this world, right? There's employees, there's entrepreneurs, there's business people, and there's investors. People, and I want you to hear me real well when I say this, because there's those 4 quadrants of people in this world. Employees are the main number of people in this world. There's 90-something% of this world is made up of employees. And if you are an employee, yes, you need a degree. Hear me before you go any further. We all need education. The reason that I'm sharing, especially on education to people, is because a lot of times people confuse getting a degree with getting education. Not because somebody don't have a degree means that they've stopped learning, and I'm a perfect example. Where you get the education is important depending on who you are. And if you don't believe me, ask Steve Jobs, ask Mark Zuckerberg, ask Bill Gates. And they'll tell you. Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates got honorary degrees after they accomplished their milestones of things that they did in this world. They realized that these men were smart enough, and Harvard University gave them honorary degrees afterwards, right? So that's a different situation. But they dropped out of school knowing that because of who they were not employees. They were entrepreneurs, investors, and business people. That's who they were. They knew that. That's why they left. And you have to know the difference, right? So I know that I'm a business person, I know that I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an investor. That's what I know. But you have to know it in your spirit. I know I'm veering off because really want to get this home to somebody, because somebody needs to hear that. You have to know who you are, and I'll tell you how you know. You know automatically you're an employee. If it is, all you can think about is getting that degree and getting that job. If a job is the top of thing in your mind, what company you're working for, you are an employee. It does not make one person, by the way, better than anyone. We all need each other to exist in this world, okay? So I don't want somebody to think, oh, because I'm talking about employees and business people. But you have to know it in your spirit. And I knew it in my mind, my spirit. You can't even tell me anything else. I am an entrepreneur, a business person, an investor. That's who I am. I don't even, at the top of the day, I don't get going, oh my God, let me go see what job I can get. That's not on top of my mind. It's, oh my God, what can I do to get my business going? What can I do? That's my focus. And that's how you know the difference of who you are in this world. Because sometimes people confuse themselves when they hear people talking about entrepreneurship and business and investment. If you're an employee, you're an employee. There's nothing wrong with being that. But if you know you're not, and I'm saying that because some young child, some young person, that person is trying to make up their mind what they should do in life. Always get an education. My education comes from reading books. And you can always switch from being an employee to an entrepreneur, business person, or an investor anytime. But this is the top of my bedroom walls. I read books and YouTube and Google. Somebody says, that's not a good place. It's been great for me to get my education. I've done online education. I've got my license on online. I've done other things online. Let me rewind back. Yes, some people need a degree if you're opening up a business, or if you run anything to do with educational, whether it's a kindergarten or a nursing home or one of those things. If you want to be in CEO position, in that type position, managerial position, running the facility, in that sense, yes, sometimes they ask you to go get your degree and advance yourself. So you're going to need a degree in that endeavor. Okay, so, but not all businesses you need to have a degree. Some of them you can actually hire people with a degree in order to come in and do the job for you. Or it is that you don't need any of that, period, and all you need is just your licensing, but you need to have knowledge in your business. So whatever business you need to get into, keep learning, learn about it, whether you're getting your education free, whether you're getting it online, whether you're reading a book, whatever, but make sure you learn your business so that you can be successful in it, right? Make sure you have a good accountant as well. If you don't know accounting, and you have those type people in place so that your business can function to the best capacity. Right? I did stray away a long way, but that had a reason for me saying that. Getting back to the point, and you'll get to the reason why I said that. So we move, and I was working for the staffing agency, and I decided that I was going to open my staffing business. When I tell you, I knew in my mind that I'm opening up my business and I'm staffing for the Olympics. Don't ask me how I know, but in my mind, this is that mindset thing I'm telling you about. The first book that I read, motivational book that I read, was Anthony Robbins in 1992, Unleashing the Giant Within. When I tell you that book changed my life, it changed my life. Next was Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, right? Those two books, when I finished reading those two books, I just knew within my mind, anything that I put my mind to, I can do it. I'll tell you how that's a blessing, and each and every one of you can do it in this world. I don't care what you wanted to, you can accomplish it, right? When I came in, I was telling everybody, I'm going to staff for the Olympics, I'm going to staff. And family members, of course, they had never seen anybody do that before. So for them, it was one of those situations where, oh, yeah, you're going to do it? Oh, okay, all right. And, they probably laughed afterwards. All of that they had to take back when they saw me accomplish a task. But I'll tell you how I did it. So when I got there, when I got into Georgia, the first thing I did was, in my house, we had bought a house because we came and we bought a house. We had a basement, and I didn't know anything about opening up a storefront. I just went in my business, I set up. I started printing my cards. I had my flyers. Back then, big thing was flyers. I made up my flyers. I sat down. I thought about how I wanted to do it. I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and I joined everything to start a business. Let me tell you, when you have a vision, keep moving forward. Do it as if you are in the position and you're doing it, your vision, regardless of what. So I did everything, and I still went out to work for staffing agency. So at working at a staffing agency, one of the things I always did back then is I dressed in a suit. I read that Dress for Success, and I was the type of person, I'm always dressed in a suit. And even till now, when I'm going out to businesses, even though it's an ordinary business thing, I come and I dress in a suit. And the reason I am is because I'm dressing for success. Whatever you want to do in life, that's what you do. You dress for success. Key thing, very important. But anyway, that was very, very important for me back then, that I dressed for success. And I had these suits, and I tell you, a friend of mine, he came, his sister had lost so much weight, and it was a neighbor, and he said, oh, my sister have all these suits, very expensive suits, and she gave them to me. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be too proud, even though we had money to buy enough, because my husband had just had the lump sum. I took the suits, and I was always dressed in all these suits, and every time they sent me out to something, I was dressed in these expensive suits. And so one day I'm at one of the sessions where we were sent out, and one of the clients looked very upset, and I was very friendly, and I just went up to her and I said, is everything okay? She said, no, I don't think we're going to use the staffing agent. She said, nothing personal to you, Juneann, you're one of the best employees here. She said, but not everybody is producing. And at that moment, it flashed in my mind, tell her that you have a staffing agency. And so that's how situations, you just need to put step forward and situations will come forward for you. So I told her, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, but I have a staffing agency. I said, I'll be happy to staff for you. And she said, you do? And I said, yes. I always carried my stuff in the car. I ran downstairs to the car and I got all my stuff, my folders, my card, everything, and gave it to her. She said, sure. She said, okay, we will work with you from now on. I did not set up to steal that their client, but it just so happened that it did. It was one of those situations. It's step. Well, before that, I had told somebody at the Chamber of Commerce, when you're talking about your business, I had told them that my goal for my business was to staff for the Olympics. We're talking about where do we see our companies, and I said that. One of the guys simply said, oh yeah, that's nice. And he said, do you really want to do that? And I said, yes. He never said anything more to me. This is in 1994, I think, or something like that. I might have, or 5, I might have spoken to him. Anyway, it was such a long time that I was shocked when one day he gave me a call and said, Miss Lewis, this is before the Olympics. This is maybe like 6 months before the Olympics. He said, Miss Lewis, do you still want to staff for the Olympics? And I said, yes. He said, okay. He said, get your paperwork, take it down to Georgia World Congress Center, meet such and such a person. She'll be waiting for you, and call her and then meet her. I called her. I told the woman that I got the information. She said, okay, come on down. And I went in prepared to do a presentation, prepared, ready to sell my company. And all she said is, let me see your licensing. Let me see your stuff. Let me see this. She said, are you prepared? Because you had to do a background check. Are you prepared to do a background check today? I said, yes, I am. She sent me to get my background check done, everything done right away. It was handed to me practically on a platter. But because I had already set my mind, and because I started doing everything and putting it in place to achieve that goal, when, as they said, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, that was one of those stay ready so you don't have to get ready situations. I was ready, and the opportunity presented itself. When I tell you that changed my life, it changed my life. So now we're going to get back to where you couldn't keep money. So I made all that money but couldn't keep it. I didn't know how to keep it. I knew how to make money because my dad, as I said, was an entrepreneur, and I know I'm an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur is not enough. Learning how to make money and learning how to keep money is two different things. I'll get to that one later. So anyway, getting back to what I told you about all of the not having a degree and that sort of thing. Because I staffed for the Olympics, now I'm getting back to something that happened with the first time I found out my husband was in an affair. Or had a child, by the way. So because I staffed for the Olympics and I'd done so well, I had that on my resume and I had everything to prove it. So after that, business went down because, again, not knowing how to keep the money and doing what I was supposed to do. Something I learned later. Anyway, so I applied for a job because now I had to go back into the workforce. So even though I know it was a temporary situation, but because I had had that experience, it gave me the jump when I went to apply for a position And I could show that, and I can verify, and the person was very impressed. They called the people, they said, yes, she staffed for the Olympics. They hired me in their human resources. So I was hired as a human resources person, doing interviews, doing that sort of thing. Anyway, I'm working there, and somebody came and worked at the job. And this young lady, she was working under me. She was one of my employees working under me. I had somebody else higher up than me, but she was working under me. And her and I is having a conversation. And in this conversation, she's telling me that she has a friend at work at the post office. By this time, my husband is working for the post office. And I said, oh yeah, what post office? Call the post office, same post office my husband is working for, and she's going to meet this guy this weekend. So I said, oh, okay. My husband works for that post office. Ask him if he knows such and such, and told her what to ask my husband's, the nickname that they had. And she said, okay. So Monday morning comes now, and she came to work. And she said hi, but it looked as if she was trying to avoid me. So I let the day go by, and maybe around lunchtime, I'm like, hi, did you meet with your friend? And she said, yes. And I said, oh, well, what happened? Did you ask him about my husband? And she got silent. I said, what happened? Tell him. Did he say? So I said, what is going on? So anyway, she told me, she said it in this way. She said, you know what? I just want to share something with you. Sometimes people are married at the post office, and they have children with other women, and their wives don't know. So I'm not stupid. When she said that, basically she's trying to tell me something without actually telling me. So I said to her, okay, tell me specifically. So she kind of broke it down, and she let me know that my husband was involved with somebody, and the person had a child for him. Let me reel this back. A year after we had staff at the Olympics, in 1997, my husband came home one night crying, like when I tell you crying, bitter tears. And I did not know what had happened, but she reeled it back to me that when my husband went to the hospital, the woman was a married woman, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know how you want to put that, unfortunately, I guess. My husband was going that the child was his child, right? Anyway, when he went to the hospital, the woman's husband was there at the hospital, and apparently the whole story came up that at that time, the man told him, no, this child is not mine. It's not yours, it's my child. So the child was light-skinned, my husband was dark, but the woman was a light-skinned woman. Anyway, so she let me know that at the post office, this woman has this child. That was a shocker to me. And I kept quiet. I didn't say anything to my husband for a few days. And then eventually one day I broke it to him and I said, hey, I found out, and I was upset. He denied it. He said, no, it's not his child, But at the post office, going as his child. The woman's husband worked at another post office, not at our post office my husband worked at. Anyway, but they're going as a couple, and the child is supposedly his child. The reason he was crying is because the woman's husband was at the hospital the day when he went for the delivery. The woman's husband showed up as well. So that hurt him, and that's why he came home crying. That led me back to find out what had happened. What was the tears for? Because he couldn't explain to me why he was crying. Anyway, that was my first shocker with him and having a child. And life went on for us. When we stopped for the Olympics and I made a lot of money, he took out a ton of money out of the account and it was missing. So coming to us, we lost one house because of that, because even though we made all this money and things were going well and we had everything else, because of money being taken out, because of those things, him not learning how to manage money and me not knowing how to manage money, and bills weren't being paid. I say this to you. Make sure, for you men, for you women, I don't care who you are, make sure that, especially if you have children, you're taking care of your needs at home, but learn how to pay your bills and do those things, regardless of what extracurricular activities you have going on outside. Okay? So as I said last week, I'm going to get into me and my first encounter of where I wound up being unfaithful. So my husband was cheating, and when we moved to Georgia, he had more than one situations happen, but that particular one that I said where he had the relationship with the young lady and that they claimed the child was his. I was running the business, And I had a particular employee who was a very good employee. And this young man, when I tell you, he was my go-to employee. If I could not make it there, if anything happened, he was my number one employee that I can call, and I know that this young man would get the job done for me. And my husband would come home, and sometimes he would come home a little late, but I started suspecting that he was in a relationship. So what I did, I actually went to the post office one night. Earlier, before he got off, I went and I drove up before he got off to see what he was doing. So to my surprise, when I looked, my husband came to a side door holding a woman's hand. That was the same woman that wound up having the child for him afterwards that I spoke about. But I knew that somebody was in play, because you can tell with men, they start at home, they start criticizing, and you can tell their attitude. They wear a different cologne, and you know as a woman when your husband, something is not right. So I suspected. So I'm telling this employee that happened to call me one day. I was so upset because my husband didn't come home one night. And this young man called me. When I say young man, he was 2 years younger than I was. And he called me just to see how I was doing and if I had any work coming up. Our work was, we worked with different clients for different things, right? Because the way that it was, no company makes a product and put it out there, so they would hire a company like mine to run surveys for them and that sort of thing. So part of it, we would run surveys, and he wanted to know if I had anything coming up. So he just called me, and I was upset. He could hear me being upset in my voice. And because we had kind of developed a relationship in the sense of he was a very reliable employee. And, sometimes I would tell him some things, about how my children was doing, because he would ask, how's your husband, how's your children, da-da-da. I told him what had happened. That's the first thing that started. So it started to where he would call me on a regular basis to see how I was doing, because he knew what I had told him. So one day he said to me, he said, Miss Lewis, you're so depressed. He said, Miss Lewis, you know what? I'm going to do something for you. I'm going to take you out. Yes, he did say Miss Lewis, by the way. He did call me Miss Lewis. Miss Lewis, I'm going to take you out to lunch. Do you mind? I'll take you out. I said, okay, cool, no problem. And he took me out to lunch. Went out to lunch. Wound up being another lunch, another something. He's working still in between for me, but one lunch led to another lunch. He himself started another business. As we went out to lunch, he asked me about stuff. He got into real estate and became a real estate investor. So him and I would talk about those things. Anyway, one day it moved up to, oh, there's a good movie out. Do you want to see it? I'll take you. As long as there's no problem with your husband, Bob. So one thing led to the other, and the next thing you know, it got closer than it should. But that's easy to do when you're talking to somebody of the opposite sex, or anybody that's feeding you something, and you're talking to that particular person about your marriage. All of a sudden they start looking good, because they're saying to you the things that you want to hear, and you're feeding into the stuff that you want to hear, and that's how that is. So that led to the first relationship where I was involved with somebody who I should not have been involved with. I realized it later and corrected it, but at the same time, it was one of those situations where that happened. So that's how that relationship got started. But I will leave it here, and I will get back next week, and I will continue to tell you more about the rest of the story, about how it is that I gained more money and lost it, and another bombshell. All right? Talk to you guys later. I love you. Remember, living wealthy always is a mindset. I'm going to bring that into it, because mindsets is important. I just shared to you today that a mindset makes a difference for whoever you are. You can change your life if you change your mindset. All right, guys. Bye. See you next week. Bye-bye.